back. This is the poet Is He Human with the philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 42, y'all. Fight to persevere. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
And Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice.
And don't just listen. Be a part of the movement. Join our Discord with the link or QR code and step into the fight with us, all right?
Yeah, Izzy, how you doing this week?
Man, it's been a really productive week. Shout out to the team. We have been hammering through documents. We've been getting releases. Shout out to Hakeem Harmony on his newest release, Stop It. He's got his music video. He's got a song out on all streaming platforms. So if y'all haven't tuned in, please go ahead and go to his YouTube channel, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we've got more on the way. It's overtime, man. Overtime. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. Work's been going well, and everything's progressing in terms of our plans. And I feel like I'm learning a lot every day about homesteading, stuff that we will talk about in the future. I was learning about woven wire fencing versus high tensile fencing, and so we'll talk about how to build a perimeter fence at some point in time on this podcast, but we're not there yet. I still have a lot to learn, so
I can't wait for those episodes. That sounds like an incredible one. Those sounds like, well, all of them sound like the ones that you're gonna, you should play back, but these are those how-tos.
Speaking of, I just want to mention before we move on to this week's episode that last week's episode, we had a special guest on. We had Shaggy Rax on here. That was great. And I think that our special guest episodes are something that we probably need to make more focus on in the future. I think that it's a great opportunity to hear more perspectives, different people's opinions. And if you haven't heard it, please be sure, go back, check out the last episode, number 41. It was really a good one. And this week, what we're talking about, I think, is important, especially for me, because to persevere is to, it's when you're continuing on, sometimes despite things not looking so great, right? Like when things are difficult, it doesn't feel like you're making much progress. You have to hang on. You have to persevere. To finish this thought, I've had a lot of thoughts this past week about Charlie Kirk again and what happened. I know there are a lot of people that are still very affected by that in an important way. And so, from my perspective, I feel like I just want to say that it's tested my humanity, if nothing else. Like I've seen so much that I find personally repulsive, that I've struggled in that quest to love my fellow man through that, even people that I disagree with, like Charlie Kirk did. And so what I want to kind of bring myself back to is just to remind myself why we're doing all these things that we're doing. You know what I'm saying? And remind myself almost like the story of the Good Samaritan. And we were learning about that in church here recently. And there are people that sometimes we wouldn't necessarily like to love, but that's exactly who Jesus calls us to love. Are people that would normally be considered our enemies, and so it's tough, man. But I think that I think I need to go back and remind myself what it means to be a forgiving and gracious person to other people, this week.
1,000%. And for me, I've my response has been a bit disconnected. We talked a bit offline about that. But special thanks to Shaggy Rax, Samuel Hogan, for coming through last week and speaking his truths and speaking on his sentiments. I've also had conversations with him offline as well, and we've talked about the just the thought of people having the opportunity to do something that may not be good, or something that is good, and just understanding that humans have those choices. So when they do one or the other, there's a level of not surprise. And I felt that. And the other realization that I don't want to say I necessarily came to conclusion on, but just confirmed more than anything was there's a common enemy among all of us, and it's nobody in the crowd. And if this wasn't enough for the world, not just our country, the world, to see lengths, and I'm going out on a limb here, but the lengths that people are willing to go through to make sure we don't speak the same language.
Yeah, yeah. I can second that entirely. And I will say that I agree with you 100% Izzy Human on this. And we can say that Fightcoin's opinion on this, considering that's the two of us, is effectively that this is not a time for division and or more division. You know, I know what JD Vance had to say on the subject, that you cannot have unity with people that celebrate murder and all of that, and to a certain extent I agree. I can't agree with that sentiment, but I have to look at every other human in this world as a child of God. Every life is precious, every single person, including the ones that I don't like,
Mhm.
especially the ones I don't like. Like that is my purpose, is to come here and care for and love everyone. That's what God put us here for. We're here to love, right? Not to hate, not to
And
kill.
what you're getting, and what you're also getting too, again, you're getting more exposure because of the media. History has been repeating itself. And what I was going to say to that point was, when you see a group of people that are whatever side of the lens you're on, and JD Vance, for example, speaking about the people who were celebrating the death of Charlie, and we know that's not cool, right? What you're getting is a majority, or I guess the minority voice of people who have let propaganda get to them because of 15, 30-second clips, or just the hearsay, and not enough thinking on their own. And you get that on both sides, because the opposite side of that is not knowing that, or not understanding that part, missing that part, and then responding with hate, but you don't know that person. But I bet that if we put these oppositions together, I don't personally believe that there's nothing that can't be done, uh, with the conversation first. Like I feel like we can start with these conversations first. I feel like that's the number one thing that we've missed, and that's why there is war. Because it's just like, okay, no, no, we're gonna do that. And we talked about that too. There's so many ways, and we've got a ways to go, man. We're only about 10 minutes deep into this, so I want to at least bookmark that. I'm sure it'll come back into what we're discussing later. But I mean, there's so much to talk about with Persevere, and I think what Dunamis and I are both saying is, the mental is very delicate. So take these things and take this turbulence with a grain of salt, and just remember that, your speech and how you feel is as important, even if it doesn't seem like it's the loudest in the room. You still have to protect your mental through all of this.
100%. You have to protect your mental well-being, And I think there are a lot of hurting people out there on all sides of everything. You don't have to be on the right or on the left. You don't have to be trans or not trans in order to be hurting with what is going on in the world right now. And I think that's an important thing maybe for us to recognize, is that just from the beginning is just to understand that you don't know what other people are going through. You know, someone comes up behind you and they're honking their horn, right, for you to move. You don't know if they're trying to get to the hospital. You don't know what their circumstance is in life, you know. So people, when you're getting somebody else's vitriol or their anger, what you feel like is hate, I think it's important for everyone just to take a step back and understand that everyone is super stressed out right now. Like everyone is going through a lot. I feel like that, you know. I think everyone is going through a lot more than they want to even share publicly. I know I've gone through a lot. I've gone through a lot, and I've done most of it on my own, and I feel really good about the fact that I'm coming out on the other end, you know, somewhat sane. um, that's arguable, but I just feel like this world is very hurt. This world is broken. There's a lot of hurt people, and that can be a dangerous place, because you put a lot of hurt people in the room together, and what are they going to do? They're probably going to hurt each other, right?
Right.
So I think this would be a great time for revival. This country needs Jesus more now than we ever have. We need to have that Christ consciousness that is able to look past things, is able to forgive, and the perseverance that I'm talking about now. I know we're sort of dwelling on very similar subjects right now, but I've needed to remind myself the why. We talk about community in previous episodes, and that always comes back around. But that's my why. And it's the people around me, the people that I love. It's always about relationships. God's always put a highest emphasis on relationships and people. Life is the most valuable thing we have.
Right.
So,
You spoke about, and you may have yeah, I want to say that you spoke about this in one of our episodes, and then we spoke about it offline. But I remember you telling the story of the gentleman with the talents and how the last one buried it, and because he didn't want to lose it, or his reasoning, but God's reason for giving them those talents was to go service the people. And that goes back into what you were mentioning about your why. We've been given these opportunities to create platforms that other people would love to do if they had the time, and now it's that motivation. There's an inspiration to that. Like we have a duty, we have a service that we're providing to a lot of people, and we would be doing ourselves a disservice and everybody else a disservice to bury these talents. So you know this has definitely been something. I mean, episode 42, I feel like the episode speaks for itself, going on strong every week. And the topics don't stop, and the conversations they're always flourishing, and it's great to have special speakers come in and express how they feel about life, and what it's like to be in their shoes. We love talking about us, but it's always great to just have more people in here that have a similar mindset, that are walking a similar path, that can just provide insight. So, you know, these episodes are, to me, it's just they scream longevity. If I could be not impartial for a second.
yeah. We're actually, I was reminded here recently that, we're at week 42, which means we're not too far off from a year, so we'll be celebrating that here soon. And that's exciting, man, to think about. But when we talk about, perseverance, and I think about what's going on in the world now, and there was even here recently that murder, and I just, not to get on all the current events, but the Ukrainian girl who was murdered on the bus. I think
Yeah.
her name was Irina Zarutska. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I apologize if I'm not. And unfortunately, a lot of that story has fallen off quickly because of Charlie Kirk and everything that had happened. But what I think is the most significant part of that story, which troubles me the most, and to even go back to what I was saying earlier about the Good Samaritan, is there were people that were sitting on that bus that probably could have rendered aid that didn't. There were people that were sitting there that saw what happened, that didn't step up, that didn't do something. And what I've been reminded here recently, and when we talk about community, we talk about why we do all this, and you talk about a story like the Good Samaritan, a person who, you walk past, who is not on your side of the aisle, who is not your person, who's not in your tribe. And this person who is in the other tribe, who's hurt, who's injured, not only do you not walk by, do you take time out of your day, and Jesus said we're to love others as ourselves, and you have you would have to take time out of your own day, right, to stop and inconvenience yourself to help someone else. So are we too selfish as humans now? Are we so self-centered that all we care about is ourselves and our own survival, that we can't take the time to take care of others who could be in need? And what Jesus calls us to do is not only take care of others who are in our tribe, but imagine that person that you would typically think of as the person that you might be prejudiced against, the person that you are afraid of. Who's that person in your mind that you picture that you would struggle to love? Who's that person that would piss you off on a regular basis if you saw them walking down the street? Jesus called us to love that person. If you saw that person wounded or being attacked, it's your responsibility to step in and care for that person, protect that person. And that's a far stretch from what we're seeing in the world today, but I'm reminded that that's what we're called to do. It's
Yeah.
that high of a calling. It's not just to it's wrong if you don't do something. If you see something and you don't do something, you have failed.
Right. Especially if you're doing it because of these biases, these social constructs that have been indoctrinated in us, and that's where we're getting a lot of this from. And that's the biggest reason why we're divided, because of the social construct. You realize that all of this is all ideology, and it's never been about a superior. Man, fight me in the comments, y'all. Fight me in the comments. It's never been about a superior race.
Mm.
Not to me personally. It's never been about that. These are all social constructs that have been happening from the beginning of time. When we say history repeats itself, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, you're gonna see it, you know, like in the flesh as well. But mentally, when you think about all of this, and that's what gets me sometimes. I think that that's why I feel like it's better to just be isolated up here in my location,
Mhm.
because there are things that I wouldn't say drive me crazy per se, but just the man, fight me again, the lack of common sense. And I don't think that it's hard to understand. I just think that simplicity is it's hard to believe. Simplicity is hard to believe. But if simplicity was hard to believe, why does the word exist? And that's what I'm boggled by, is if it never existed, then why is the word itself here? There's a
Mhm.
reason for that. And when you think about math and you think about all of these things in nature in its simplest form, it all stems from the root. So when you get to the root of the problem, right? And it's like we all know what it is, but of course there's that agenda but none of us are in that 1%, and that's the other end of it too. You
Yeah.
know, we're fighting. We have this minority group, and we're all the minority fighting each other, thinking that we're the majority of something. And what?
Well,
Yeah,
the
what?
the interesting way to look at it, though, if we were all united, right? I mean, we are by far the majority. There's the 1% is the 1%, right? That means there's 99% of us. Um,
Right, right.
but the people don't look at it that way, and that's the problem. Is exactly that. We've been programmed through television, through the media, through Hollywood, through politicians and their lies, and everything that's happened has been a show. It's been to craft our reality to be a certain way, and unless you question everything, you're never going to see through it. It's the Wizard of Oz, people.
Mm,
The world is much more simple than we give it credit for, and so much of what seems complex is really fractals. So much of what seems complex in this world is simplicity repeated. You have a simple concept, and it turns into a Lego. There's this building block, and then I can take this simple concept and combine it with this other simple concept, but because I combine them in a pattern, it becomes a complex, beautiful tapestry.
Toroidal sounds.
Yes. Toroidal
Shout out.
sounds, man, spells.
Oof, man. Hey, that's who we need to get on here next. I think I said this already. Is Drew Aces talk to us about some toroidal sounds?
I would love that. I would love that. If you can help us set that up, man, let's do that for real.
I
Shout out to
absolutely.
Jurasis. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
He's a solid one.
it's just to segue a little bit into some other things that have to do with perseverance, because I know we've been talking a lot about the spiritual, the emotional, the morality side of things tonight. It's
Yeah,
been very heavy and heady, but on a practical sense, with all of things that come in and life that goes on, I just have a confession to make, in that we learned from Crypto Meditator this summer how to do push-ups and sit-ups and squats and all of that stuff, and I was doing 100 a day through basically all of July and most of August, and then it started to slow down, and now it's basically almost fallen off completely, and I really feel like I need to get back to it. I need to get back to all of these things that we you talk about the 47 degrees, the 48 degrees versus the 47 degrees, and I need a course correction, because
yeah.
I'm a little too far to the north or too far to the south. So
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. And I've not been as on top of my physical fitness. I've been conscious of my diet still because of that, a lot more conscious because I have not been as active. But, it was definitely something that was a part of the regiment, and I definitely felt 10 times better. I've definitely felt myself become a little bit more antsy because I do have that extra energy. So, working out for me helped with that. And then the meditation, of course, helped ease the mind. And I've been recording a lot, which has been dope. But the balance of the meditation, the working out, and the context, it's not. It's been like 47 and a half, 46, kind of thing. And yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it at all. I really don't.
it's tough sometimes when I feel like when there's a lot of positive things, whether they're positive or negative, I guess. But I've been trying to make a lot of positive changes over the past year. We've talked about a lot of them, um,
Yep.
but in the midst of all of that, again, it's like regular life comes in, things happen, and maybe you move on. You're trying to focus. Your focus becomes something else, and then that lets something else that you were maybe working on previously gets out of focus. And I think that's where I'm kind of at again. Is letting certain things that were priorities before have not become, like, they're not priorities anymore, and that's, they maybe just need to become priorities again. So
Yeah, and let's hold each other accountable. I think Lord willing, we get next week and we can get back on our regiment, and we can check in with one another and ask, hey, did you get your push-ups in? Did you get your workout in? Did you meditate? And
absolutely.
let's just, then from there, kind of wind off of that. Or it's like, oh yeah, you know what I did today? Yeah, you know what I did? Oh, hey, my bad, I was working out. What's up, dude? Sorry I missed your call. Let's get back to that for sure. And we've got fall. I mean, fall is right here, and it's going to be nice. It's going to be a lot cooler out there. But I think that's going to be a cool, like a good dynamic. It's going to help with breathing and different kind of breathing exercises and how to take in this season, right? So I see the benefits. I see the benefits of this break that we took on accident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's dude, I cannot. The fall is just really my favorite time of the year. I love this that's coming up, and this weekend. And I don't know what it's like up there where you're at, but I just let you know, like, this weekend, I think we might have one lingering end of summer. It's supposed to get up to about 91 on Saturday and on Sunday, and then it's back into the upper 80s again. But what's it like up there where you're at right now, this time of year?
You're right on the money. We had one of our hotter days the other day. It was about 90 something degrees out there. And I was grilling today. I was grilling a steak. Shout out to my boy Dunamis over here. I had a jerk style steak, but
Nice.
uh, got a beautiful view up where I'm at, and I was able to look out and see all of the trees, and they're all changing colors, and just had these beautiful yellows and reds and oranges and greens, dude. It was such a freaking view, and I feel like the seasons, I feel like they've been on point this year. Really, like I feel like winter wore off right when it needed to, and spring came in, and then summer came, and fall, came like maybe a week early, but it's like it's made itself known. Like I feel like we've had perfect 4 seasons. We'll see what winter brings, but
Yeah,
it feels like it's been perfect.
it's been very nice, and I feel like we've gotten more rain this summer, at least where I'm at, than we've had in many years in the past. So I feel
Yeah,
very, very blessed. I can't complain. Also, this time of year really is a good year. Like, I mean, this is a good time. Like you were saying, it's in order to get back into those things. And I plan on getting a pass to the zoo, and maybe going and visiting the zoo here soon. And this is always a great time of year to do things outdoors. When in the summertime, maybe we're bowling or or swimming outdoors, but not wanting to necessarily just walk around outside in
right.
Texas, at least.
Man, I can't wait to come and visit Texas. It's gonna be a good time. I think the last time, yeah, or I don't think I know. The last time we were there, or you were already there, but last time our team was there, it was like in the '70s, and it's like the '60s, and it was like pristine. It was perfect.
That's like October, November in Texas is the best time of year, I really think. And then of course February, January and February is probably the coldest time of year. But
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll stay. I'll stay up
yeah,
here if I want that.
for sure. Well, the other thing that I think, in addition to the health, I've actually been doing really good at, and when I say the health, the food, my diet. I just had another steak tonight, so I mean, I feel like I'm eating well. I'm doing well in terms of my diet. I feel like the issue again was working out, and then also in terms of savings, because I'm putting together money for the down payment for land, right? There is a desire now to go and replenish my savings. So persevering in that sense will be, I need to get back into to buying some more silver and buying some more ADA, as the paychecks allow, as I can dollar cost average a little at a time. And for our listeners, I'm not really super excited about accumulating a lot at these prices. I'm not saying that prices are necessarily going to crash. I'm just saying that we're kind of in a bull run, and it might, things may take off, but after a bull run, you typically have a crash. And so there will be an opportunity at some point in the future to buy assets for cheaper than you can buy them probably even today. You never know. You never know. And maybe not ADA, but you never know. And because of that, I've never, I don't think it's a good idea to get FOMO, especially when prices start shooting up. So if you ever feel the desire, like, oh gosh, I have to throw a bunch of money into into crypto or gold or silver, it's probably because the price is going up, and that probably means you just want to wait a little bit and buy it on the dip later on.
Right. Yeah. This is where the word persevere is perfect, because this is all, like we've talked about crypto, and rather being this currency game that a lot of people want the narrative to be. It's more about utility. So this is a good time to and again, not financial advice, but just to look at your portfolio and look at ways to diversify, and further continue positive investments. Look at those stake pools. I know SLR, again, not financial advice, but SLR's got a stake pool, and there's a lot of good projects out here that you just got to do your research. And I think knowing the right people always helps too, because we've talked about the narrative that crypto's had, with people who aren't too familiar with it. So getting yourself in a good group of people, and just knowing what's gonna put you in the best position, and take you a long way.
Yeah, and if you don't have a lot of knowledge in crypto, there's really nothing wrong with that either. It's
Right.
it's usually, if you're new to crypto, Bitcoin is really all you need to worry about for the most part. And if you get into the altcoins, of course, there's Ethereum, there's Cardano, which happens to be one of our favorite other networks out there in the top 10. And then typically on those chains, you also have other little altcoins and meme coins and everything else. Fight happens to be one of those. I like
Yeah,
Hosky. I've been a big fan of Hosky for a long time.
they're
So
great.
I love it. I've always thought the whole thing's funny, and I love the fact that nothing's promised. It's just for
Yes.
fun, and you have to have the right mindset when investing. So since we're kind of on the topic right now, and that is a good thing to persevere in, especially if your investing hasn't gone great, or if you've lost money or anything like that. Investing is a worthwhile thing to persevere in. What I would say, and this is again not financial advice, but this would be what I do. And what I do is I tend to put the biggest weight of my savings into things that I know I can count on. And that's, we've said before, is gold, silver, Bitcoin, and ADA. And ADA is at the end of that list for a reason, because it is the riskiest out of all of those. So I would say I would definitely, just, if you're risk averse, you can focus on gold and silver, and probably have no problem beating inflation and do just fine. That's that. If you just saved silver coins, you're going to be okay, right? Um, so don't overcomplicate things. That's the other thing, is don't overcomplicate things. And dollar cost averaging is one of the safest ways to start investing if you haven't yet. Is just find an amount of money every week, every month that you can afford to lose. If you buy Starbucks, then let's say, okay, $10 a week. At the end of every month, you buy a silver coin, no matter what the price is. Maybe you have to pay a little more, a little less. Um, Dollar cost averaging would be where you're actually spending the same dollar amount each time. But the the idea is just to stick with it, right? You got to stick with it, and it ends up being worthwhile in the long run if you stick with it over years. We're not talking about short-term things either, guys, you know.
Right. Man, I was sitting here. I was like, I broke out my pen. Not gonna lie, I still take notes when you talk, man. You got to stick with the plan. And I mean, you hit a lot. You hit a lot of heads there. So I really don't know what to piggyback off of, other than just sticking with your plan and keeping that whiteboard up and keeping it updated. Just when things get sticky and you're unsure, just again, be rational and be logical about it, because you had that mindset when you looked at these things initially. So stick with what you got, and don't frantic. I think we, talk about markets and things like that, and and uh, I love what you've taught me, as far as like reading those things, and you got to look at moments as opportunities. Even if it's not the most ideal situation.
Yeah, for in some cases, it's 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 like that song. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. But it's that's exactly it. If you're new in a certain area, you don't need to fret too much. It's just a matter of taking the time to observe and learn. And once you feel comfortable, the more you feel comfortable, the more you can get into a space. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel very comfortable at any point in time, whether I'm buying or selling now certain assets. I have a pretty good sense of whether that asset is currently cheap, expensive, or fairly valued, right? But that took time for me to get a sense of that. And when we say persevere and stick with your plan, it could be something financial, but it could be a business plan. You should have a plan and have a strategy for life.
Yeah, it's whatever you imagine it to be, and all of that Dunamis is talking about is personal development, and with the setting the goals too, like that's a part of the perseverance. And I'm gonna talk about this. It's second, but I'm gonna bring it up third. But developing habits, we were talking about working out. We were talking about how we were, doing really well, and started developing habits, doing other things, and we were doing well with that. But to be able to put them all together.
We think that everybody has their own unique path. Everyone has their own unique gifts, their own unique talents. So nothing that we say is going to specifically exactly apply to any particular person. But yeah, the people should at least take the time to think about it. It's
Yeah.
worthwhile to sit down and think about and say, is what I do every day what I want to do every day? If it's not, then what do I like? What do I enjoy? How, and I mean, these are all super basic things. I sound like I'm going back to episode 1 right now, but you have to decide what it is you love, and oftentimes that is tied to your purpose, right? God gives us a purpose. He also gives us gifts, and our gifts and our purpose are oftentimes very closely tied together. So
Mm.
if you can play as a child and as a teenager and as a young adult and figure out just what you love to do, that very often is very tied to what it is you're supposed to do. And so if I know there are a lot of people that are stuck in the wrong place right now. They're just impositioned, and unfortunately, it's causing a lot of strife. And there's a lot of people that are angry and hate each other right now. And I just think that I don't know, man. I start to sound like a hippie in my head, but I hear that
well,
all like can't we all just get along? But
why can't we be friends?
I know,
I want
but
to touch on what you had said earlier about the imposter, like we were talking about imposter syndrome, and you were talking about those things being in your head, and having that relationship with God and having that relationship with Christ and putting those words out. And that, brings me to highlight the point: building relationships and keeping like having those relationships solid. Having a solid relationship with Christ and having a solid relationship with your community, which we can go back to, our older episodes and talking about that, and just how key all of those things are, and just staying grounded and what your purpose is and remembering your why. So it when you and of course everything is a reflection of you. So when you see things that are out of balance, like they'll be in front of you. I feel like that's a pretty tall tale sign. When things are out of whack, like you'll see those things start to, be a part of, your community, and you see things that are off, and then like uh, now you have two choices at that point. You can blame it on the externals and say, "Oh man, like such and such allowed that to get here," or you can look at yourself and you can say, "Hmm, how did I allow that to get here when that wasn't here before?" So I
and
just want
and
I wanted to bring that in.
yeah, I feel that 100%. And when we can also look and ask sometimes how we can help, because sometimes you see something, and everything depends on the lens that you look at it through. Just like an action can be good or evil depending on its motivation and who it benefits. So, just as a quick example, and I know I'm going to get a little philosophical here, but the idea that if I influence you to do something, if I convince you to do something that you were not going to do previously, some people would say that's manipulation. And other people could say, so if I convince you to do something right now and I do that to benefit me, that is manipulation. But if I convince you to do something right now that you weren't going to do yesterday and I do it and it's to benefit you, that's motivation.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
that's that's godly. That's love, right?
yeah,
So things depend on the lens that you look at them through, and also your motivations. And so um, I don't know. That's kind of a bit of a ramble, and I don't know if it makes sense with what we're talking about tonight. But I think with perseverance and with what's gone on this week, I keep getting brought back around to the idea that we need to really take the time and slow down here, because there's there's a lot that's going on in the world.
and I would say, like, like the four principles of perseverance to look at all in all would be to have that purpose that we've touched on a lot, throughout this episode. We've got to be able to, open our mind to have a better perspective of, what this means for us in its entirety. Deal with the disappointment. May be disappointed in how people are responding, but recognizing that humans are going to human, and not letting that again affect your purpose and your why, which would be to love overall and work with the limited resources, and that's a big key. Dunamis and I, didn't come into the game with 100,000 people on our plate, but we had a thought, we had a plan, and we had some resources available for us to be able to be 42 weeks strong into this. So, all of those things being said, these again are simple things, yet they get so far out of place the more we get involved with everything else that's here to, distract us. So, just recognize all of those things and keep your community strong. These are trying times, but as Dunamis and I have mentioned, so many times. And I mean, the reason why it gets mentioned so many times is because that truth will never change, is that it all starts with you.
Yeah. It's the individual person, and so much of what we're talking about too tonight has to do with individual principles, right? So if you believe in something strongly, and I think everyone should believe in things strongly, I don't think that that we should all just be, robots that go along and feed in with whatever's on the news or whatever somebody teaches us in school or whatever the government tells us. I think that it's important that we all think for ourselves. And along with that, I think that it's important that we are kind. And I for one, do think that what happened to Charlie Kirk was horrible, and I think that all prayers should be made for his family and for this country right now. But I also feel like the people that have celebrated this, as much as we want to condemn all of them, I think that I think it's important to feel sorry for them too, and just and what it is that gets a person to a point where they celebrate the death of another person. You know what I'm saying? And recognize that that same thing can happen within me, right?
Right.
And
Right.
recognize that that same depravity lives in myself. That all these things that we hate, that we see in other people, um, we're just as capable of it. And if we say that we're not, it's only because of the grace of God or because we haven't been put in that situation. I really feel like we are all part of the same. We are all part of one. We're all connected, and I hope the best for all of us. And for those that I disagree with, those that I would look at and would feel that sense of, whatever you would call it, disgust at their behavior as a person, I would pray that God would put his compassion in my heart, and that I wouldn't be the same thing that I hate, right?
Right. Right. The persistence of love, man. The persistence of love. The tenacity of love. Like we love so hard that it hurts, you know. And oh man, I was talking with Sam about this, and just to express sentiment on how we both feel, because I have disdain for and disappointment just for some of the responses with this, but people are they're gonna do what they want. They're gonna celebrate, which is terrible to say. They're gonna mourn. They're gonna have their freedoms to do as they please. But just man, I wish I had. I'm sorry, Dunamis.
Oh, it's all good, man. This is it's been a trying week, but I have hope that positive things come out of this, and I really feel like they will. And I hope that it surprises people on the left. I hope that people on the left are probably expecting some sort of horrific backlash, and I just hope that doesn't happen. With every ounce within me, I want to see awakening. I want to see revival. I think that it's important now more than ever for the message that Charlie Kirk brought was that was a message of salvation. He was a prophet of Jesus Christ. You know, I really believe that he was a great person. I don't agree 100% with everything he said either. But I think that he, if nothing else, was not afraid to go out and say the things that he thought and debate with people. And it wasn't because he hated them, it was because he loved them. He was out there trying to change people's mind. And that's a lot more than a lot of people would do these days. There's a lot of people that really don't care anymore about changing the other side's mind.
Yeah, and you know what? I got my thought. It's easier. I think it's easier to hate because there's not really a whole lot of effort that goes into it. It's easy for us to, kind of just dislike something and I guess go into a place where, we're just very much like, nope, not for me. You know, there is a lot of work I feel like it takes to like love, because you have to maintain that. It's just like maintaining, your marriage, and maintaining, relationships with like significant others is the biggest thing that I can think of, because love evolves over time and the languages evolve over time. So being able to comprehend that, understand that, and then act on those changes is key. So, and I think that's why, it gets to be a lot more difficult to love, because we're already facing a literal language barrier. So those love languages aren't, as articulated as we explore the world. But I think that once we get to the core of people just want to be more godlike, and people want to be closer to their God, and is measured in so many different ways. But when you look at it, and I mean, this is going to be the last bit of what I have to say, but and maybe a little bit of my ideals coming out. But we all started in Pangea. We were all the same at one point. If you're looking at it from that angle, I am a firm believer of God, but it's like Pangea, and then the splitting, and then the Tower of Babylon, and all these things. Like, we were all one at some point, and I think that's something to be said in all of these stories throughout the world, is that we all started out, with one common goal, and that was to be more like our God. So, with that being said, be kind, be kind.
Absolutely. We should be kind. And yeah, the fact that we are all one race is something that I think is not spoken about enough, especially now. I've mentioned the 90s and how I feel like things felt back then. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I really feel like there's probably a lot of other people that would feel the same way. That through the 80s and the 90s, I felt like things were just improving in this world in all forms and facets. You know what I'm saying? And then it seems like after the turn of the century, if nothing else, there was just angst and tension that was introduced, and I don't know why. Um, you know, Izzy, I love you, brother, and I don't feel like there's any issue between the races. I think that white and black and brown and every other shade, we all need to unite and recognize that we're one people, and there is a very, very small group of people that are pulling the puppet strings and fucking with us. And, you know, maybe it's time to fight back a little bit.
Hey, fight.
Fight, fight, fight. Well, I will shut up before I get us into too much trouble, and I know we're near the end, but hey, let's do this again next week, Izzy.
Yeah,
And
let's do it again. Really appreciate you guys tuning in with us on another week, and I know it's been heavy these past couple episodes, but all of these episodes are hold dear to us, and we've said this before. It seems like every week we go into this, and it's always in conjunction to what's going on in our lives, and what's going on in the world. So we definitely pride ourselves each week when we come in here and we talk to y'all.
absolutely, absolutely, and this is this is always something that again I've mentioned many times as well, is important for my mental health. And if this is good for you as well, or you like us and enjoy us, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Subscribe, and we'll definitely continue to talk about the things that are important to you. If there's a subject that you want us to talk about, please say so in the comments, and we will definitely get to it. Thank you.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah, man. Hey, and never give up the fight.
Hey, never give up the fight.
You could try to play it, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah.
He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine. From pain that's a blessing, new focus, no guessing. Just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.
So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change